Thanks for joining us here on France 24 for France in Focus. I'm Tom Burgess-Watson. Coming up in the programme, we cannot live beyond our means. The French Prime Minister announces deep public spending cuts running into the tens of billions of euros. And totally unacceptable, so says the French Defence Minister as he promises to crack down on sexual harassment in the armed forces. And chocoholics take note. We'll be finding out how some of the finest Easter eggs in the land are made. First, France's new Prime Minister, Manuel Valls, has unveiled a raft of measures aimed at reducing public spending by 50 billion euros over the course of the next 3 years. Well, those cuts are necessary for France to meet obligations to Brussels, and Valls has promised they'll be fairly shared. And so pensions, benefits and public sector salaries have all been earmarked for a freeze.
It could be the biggest spending cuts France has experienced in 4 decades. Tasked with reining in the country's deficit, Prime Minister Manuel Valls is tackling the problems with big numbers.
We will reduce public spending by 50 billion euros between 2015 and 2017.
Nearly half of the savings will come from cuts to France's generous healthcare system and social benefits. Income support for the young, pensions and family benefits, for example, will be frozen until October 2015. Valls did, however, promise not to reduce the minimum wage and maintain benefits for those with the lowest incomes. The central government will also see its spending trimmed by 18 billion euros through budget cuts and a slim down of the state workforce. But the Prime Minister confirmed the creation of thousands of jobs in education, justice and the police. The announcements sparked widespread political reactions. The right and the centre welcomed the move, but want more.
Manuel Valls simply reaffirmed a goal we agree on and that we, the centrists, have been fighting for years now. Now we're just daring him to go through with it.
For the far left and the far right, the culprit is once again the European Union.
He took us for a ride. Just a week ago, he promised to stand up to the European Commission. Now he's making it harder for people by reducing their purchasing power.
They're locking us up in EU dogma and imposing incredible violent cuts because we have to respect Brussels dogma. We have to save the euro at all costs.
At 57% of GDP, France has one of the world's highest public spending rates in the world. But Valls' proposal looks modest compared to the harsh cuts implemented recently in Spain or Italy. Part of the savings are meant to fund a program of tax cuts for individuals and companies aimed at reviving France's flagging economy and reducing unemployment. Some of the more left-leaning socialist lawmakers have already threatened to vote against the plan when it's presented in Parliament at the end of the month, unless it's amended.
A document leaked to the media reveals that the police here in the upscale 6th arrondissement of Paris were given instructions to systematically evict Roma families from living on the streets. Well, that news sparked outrage amongst rights groups, and it comes hot on the heels of a report which singles France out for criticism for its treatment of the Roma people.
This woman picked one of Paris's most upscale districts to beg for a bit of money. Like her, dozens of Roma beggars can now be seen on the streets of the 6th arrondissement, a problem for the local police station. According to a leaked internal memo, day and night personnel of the 6th arrondissement are ordered to find Roma families living in the street and systematically evict them. The move has sparked outrage in the neighborhood.
It's true that constantly having beggars on every street corner can be a bit annoying, but we have to show a sense of humanity.
Evicting them from this district just because it's an upscale area is disgusting.
The district mayor admits he alerted the police chief about a massive influx of Roma families in the area.
We are talking about a social problem caused by human hardship. At the same time, there are cases of petty crime. While not necessarily endemic to these families, they occur in a wider context of the organized crime network. That is unacceptable, and we must deal with it. The worst thing we can do is not address this problem.
Critics denounce the memo as encouraging racial profiling, which is illegal in France. But inside the police, some argue the note was just poorly written.
This is more a case of bad semantics and poor communication than an actual witch hunt against the Roma.
The Interior Ministry announced the memo had been modified but did not elaborate on the changes. The government spokesman did not defend the note but said Roma families should be sent back to where they came from. There are currently about 25,000 Roma people in France, with more than half living in and around Paris.
We're now at the headquarters of the French Navy because the Defence Ministry announced this week that for the first time, female officers will be allowed to serve aboard submarines. Now that's a move being hailed as a major step towards gender equality in the Navy, and it comes at a time as a major initiative to stamp out sexual harassment in the French armed forces.
With one of the highest percentages of women in the military in the world, France is leading the way. In total, around 60,000 serve their country, but not all are getting the protection they deserve. There have been 86 reported cases of sexual assault or harassment since the start of 2013 alone. French Defence Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian says that is unacceptable. He's vowed to crack down on those responsible.
The goal for the French military is zero tolerance. The French military must be exemplary.
Under the new proposals, victims will be able to call a 24-hour helpline and receive legal advice. They will be given proper support and the right to psychological counselling, and they will also have the right to automatic legal protection. The move comes after whistleblowing book The Invisible War was published in February, detailing 35 specific cases. It claims women in the French armed forces have been ignored for 30 years.
Before this, nothing had ever been done, so the fact that the Minister of Defense has in person addressed both civilians and military personnel, well, I think that's a good thing. At least something's being done.
The last male-only branch of the French military is also set for a shake-up. For the first time, the French Navy plans to send 3 female personnel on board a submarine carrying a ballistic missile. The Navy had previously claimed there were several obstacles to allowing women on board, having to create female-only cabins in a limited amount of space, having separate bathroom facilities, and the risk of recycled air on pregnancies.
On board a ship, the crew is a community. Life has to be organized. That means both mentally and in the physical layout. The quarters, the bathrooms, all these things must be adapted to reduce potential risks.
France is in danger of slipping behind. Women have been allowed to serve on board US submarines since 2012 and British submarines since 2013.
It's now Easter, which means it's that time of the year when we eat far more chocolate than we ought to. Well, we're now inside a workshop where they know exactly how it's done, and we're going to go meet the brains behind this place, a man who knows a thing or two about chocolate. Well, I'm here with the French master of chocolate, Patrick Roger. Thank you very much indeed for inviting us to your factory. Show us some of your favorite creations here.
My favorite is the toad, with its little bubbles here. It doesn't really represent anything to do with Easter, but it makes you think and ask, why is there a toad here? And there is no reason. It's just for you to ask the question. It means you have an intruder in the Easter universe.
What else have you got here on display? Show me some of your other creations.
This shell is made of dark chocolate. It's also dark chocolate behind the green. Just having a bit of color in the shop really adds something. It's dynamic, it's really beautiful.
We're now going to have a little look around and see how it's all made.
So you pour the chocolate throughout the mold, get rid of the excess, and then you leave it to cool down for between 15 and 20 minutes. The chocolate is now really hard, so you can take it out of the mold. You have to be very careful. And here you go, a rat, a real city rat, but a bit of a fatty one.
Now, Patrick, everything around us here is made of chocolate. So we've got chocolate lions, chocolate King Kong, chocolate chimpanzees, and you've won an award as the top chocolatier in the year 2000. What makes your chocolate stand out as being better than the rest?
I think the secret is probably genetic. My philosophy is that, and this is what gives me goosebumps, is that you're born with it.
Surely, when you're making your creations, your sculptures, you must be tempted just to snap a little bit off and eat it, aren't you?
I never eat the chocolate on my sculptures. I only eat the smaller chocolates. And of those, I eat around 40, 60 a day, sometimes even 100.
Well, on that very sweet note, we leave you. Thank you very much for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24.